At the beginning of this year, I decided to embark on one of the hardest journeys I've ever taken, AP Biology. Now I know what some of you are thinking. A school course? Really? But in AP Biology, there's a certain question type called a free response question, or FRQ for short. Usually in an FRQ, it comes with a case study followed by questions that link the information to concepts learned in class. Whenever I would encounter an FRQ, I would get overwhelmed by the amount of information. My answers were often long, unclear, and contradictory. In fact, I intentionally made my answers long in some insignificant hope that some out-of-nowhere detail would get me the point. Naturally, I struggled. And so I decided to do something about it. But what? I drew from my experiences in my school's generative AI committee and the mental frameworks we developed for ethical AI usage. And I developed a 4-step FRQ mental framework that I could apply to every sort of question to help me structure my thinking. And I worked with ChatGPT to do this. And what I learned through this experience was that thinking itself really only develops when we are putting in cognitive effort. Now, how did I know this? Well, because I, alongside everyone here, have been through the same learning process before. We have all received some sort of input, whether that's reading one of these FRQ case studies or sitting in class and hearing our teacher deliver content. We usually take that information and then apply it to a worksheet, project, or test, or even answer one of these FRQ questions. We finish that up, hand it back to our teacher, and they give us a grade, maybe some feedback. We look over that feedback, and that further reinforces our learning. My realization was that understanding develops within the application stage of the learning process, where we are actively struggling and putting cognitive effort into the tasks that we are doing. But what happens when we take that cognitive effort and offload it to an external system like an AI? Well, that is what is currently happening in education today. You see, education is currently prioritizing an efficiency mindset over one of deeper learning. The real opportunity to deepen learning is to integrate AI throughout the entire learning process. But before we get ahead of ourselves, how are students even using AI? Well, according to Pew Research, in a survey conducted in 2025 in the US, students are using AI to search for information, to get help with schoolwork, or to summarize books, articles, videos. And through this approach, they're really only developing 2 skills. The first of which being they're becoming a lot better in gathering information. We can get access to high-quality information like that. But not only that, we can control the way that information is conveyed to us. Hey, ChatGPT, summarize this article for me at a 9th grade reading level. Or hey, Gemini, teach me this scientific concept at a 9th grade level. The second skill that they're developing is endless iteration. In the pre-AI age, getting feedback was harder. You'd have to wait until school hours for a teacher or fellow student to be available, and really the only feedback you're getting is relevant to your school's curriculum and concepts learned in class. But in this new age, that's no longer the case. Sure, we can still get curriculum-level feedback by talking to our teachers, but we can also consult these AI models who have access to basically all of human knowledge via the World Wide Web. And so great. Students are able to become a lot better at doing work and a lot better at getting it done faster. But the distinction we have to make is that efficiency does not equal deeper learning. According to Dr. Jal Mehta from the Harvard Graduate School of Education, deeper learning refers to the understanding of not just the surface features of a subject or discipline, but the underlying structures or ideas. And so I prompt you all, how are we supposed to deepen our learning when we are so focused on getting one task done and then moving on to the other? We can't. And so how do we take our current approach to integration and alter it in a way to promote deeper learning? Well, let's take a step back and look at where everyone is. We know that educators and the guidance they can exhibit are primarily focused within the input and output stages of the learning process, either delivering that content in the first place or taking in our work to give a grade and feedback. Whereas us, the students, we're using AI in the application and reinforcement stages of the learning process, those stages which emphasize cognitive effort. And so this creates a disconnect. Students who have the efficiency mindset are unable to be encouraged by their teachers to go more in depth on the concepts that they're learning. So instead of concentrating AI usage within the application and reinforcement stages of the learning process, disperse it. Spread out through the entire learning process so that not only do you retain the pros of being able to create high-quality work, but you're also able to get students, AI, and teachers into one room. AI will step aside as an efficiency tool and become one of a teaching assistant. Now, how do we know that an approach like this actually works? We'll look no farther than Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech has an AI model developed by their design innovation labs called Jill Watson, produced in 2016. Now, Jill Watson has three main goals. Firstly, answer student questions. Secondly, enhance student cognitive engagement. And finally, reduce the amount of time educators are spending on answering regular student queries. Now, what researchers found was that in classrooms where Jill Watson was integrated, the percentage of students who got an A increased from 62% to 66%, while the amount of students getting C's in the classes where Jill Watson was integrated decreased in the amount of C's that they were getting from 7% going down to 3%. But not only that, Jill Watson was also able to increase student perception on things like course design, organization, and even increase their social presence within their respective communities. So great, Jill Watson was able to make students more efficient, but also deepen their learning, allowing them to still have cognitive effort when they are applying concepts taught in class. But the thing is, what education values and what learning values are contradictory. You see, education values achievement, high grades, lots of extracurriculars, whereas learning happens through struggle, failure, falling down and then learning how to pick ourselves back up. And so maybe the question isn't even, how is AI affecting deeper learning? But maybe the question is, did we ever value deeper learning in the first place? Do you? Well, I know you do. That's why you chose education. The learning that goes on within a school's walls isn't determined by an individual. It's determined by a school's culture. AI is only a cultural amplifier. And so the key takeaway is, which culture do you want? A culture where regurgitation and the amount of work that is able to be done is evident of a student's learning? Or a culture where application, interpretation, and struggle is valued? A culture of efficiency or a culture of understanding? The choice is yours. Thank you.